When it comes to attaching a Surefire suppressor to your AR, there's a few different ways you can do it. You can use a Surefire Muzzle Break, a 3 or 4 prong flash hider, or you can use the Surefire Warcomp. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you why I would recommend never using the Warcomp to attach a Surefire suppressor to your AR. So when you use words like never and don't ever use this or that, those are pretty strong words. So when I say never use a Warcomp to attach a Surefire suppressor, I do mean that. And the main reason is because these Warcomps do not have Labyrinth Seals on them like the 3 or 4 prong flash hider and the Surefire Muzzle Break. So what is a Labyrinth Seal? Well, on the muzzle device right here, there are 2 little channels, and I'm going to overlay some pictures so you can see this close up, that are etched into the muzzle device itself that prevent any gas from coming back down the can and out of the handguard this way. So to demonstrate the amount of gas that is escaping out of this Warcomp, I'm going to do a little test where I shoot 10 rounds out of the suppressor with the muzzle brake attachment, and then I'm going to put the can on the Warcomp and I'm going to shoot 10 rounds and show the gas loss out of the Warcomp by the amount of gas and carbon that ends up on my hand after shooting it. So I have 10 rounds. This is the Surefire muzzle brake with the suppressor attached. And as a little side note, always wear hearing protection when you're shooting, even suppressed, because after round after round after round, it can start damaging your hearing. I hate to be the safety police, but it's just always a good idea to wear hearing protection. So here we go. So as you can see on my hand, there is almost really no carbon at all. So I'm gonna take the can off of the 14.5. Unfortunately, we have to blur this out due to YouTube and their policies, which, you know, we like to abide by the rules. So we're gonna put this can on the 11.5. It's already pretty hot, so I've got my glove on. All right, so it's attached. We have it on the 11.5 inch with the Surefire Warcomp. We're gonna shoot 10 rounds, and we're gonna take a look and see what we look like after those 10 rounds. So here we go. So 10 rounds down the tube, and you can see my hand right here. Hopefully that translates to the camera, with all that carbon that has shot out of this can right where I hold the gun right here. You can see that's where most of it is on my hand. With my grip like this, it's just shooting out of the bottom of this can, and I can actually feel it as I'm shooting. It feels like the wind's blowing on my finger really hard because all that gas is coming out and hitting my fingers. So, and that's just 10 rounds. So imagine, you know, a day where you're shooting 100, 200 rounds on the range. Like my hand, sometimes when I go home, is completely black. And you can even see some of it on my palm where it's escaped through the rails right there. So, you know, a super informal test that we just did, but it really shows the amount of gas that's escaping due to this muzzle device. You're also losing suppression. So that gas coming out is not silent. It really does make a difference. When you use this Warcomp compared to the Surefire Muzzle Break, there's a very, very distinct audible difference. This thing is much louder than a muzzle brake. So let's look at these 2 muzzle devices a little bit closer, and let's see exactly what these seals look like and what they do. So now that we have these 2 muzzle devices side by side and we have the camera close up, you can really see, when I use my broken knife tip right here, you can see these Labyrinth Seals on the Surefire Muzzle Break right here, and the lack of the Labyrinth Seals on the Warcomp right here. So all the gas stays above these seals right here. So this is where the suppressor attaches to the muzzle device, and this is where the ratcheting collar really latches on and keeps this suppressor from shifting or coming loose. And these seals prevent any gas from coming back this way, and it keeps this really clean so that your suppressor does not get carbon locked on here, and there's no way of it getting stuck, which if you shoot thousands and thousands of rounds, some gas might eventually seep back there and make a little carbon buildup, but for the most part it's going to stay really clean. But if you look closer up here, there is some carbon in some of these ports right here where this gas has come back past here, and you can see the carbon buildup. That's just another reason why I prefer not to use these Warcomps, is this can get super dirty back here after thousands of rounds, and it will be almost impossible to get your suppressor off. And videos on like Reddit and YouTube where people shoot these suppressors off because they get locked onto these Warcomps. So just the absence of these Labyrinth Seals right here, which you can see, it really does make a huge difference in the suppression and the serviceability of these cans and these mounts. So we've covered why the Warcomp is not the best way to attach a Surefire suppressor, but how does the Warcomp stack up when used just as a muzzle device without a suppressor on it? So in theory, the Warcomp is a hybrid between a flash hider and compensator. And like with anything in life, if you try to do a few different things okay, you're really never good at one particular thing. So this Warcomp, when you compare it to a flash hider, it's not the best because it still allows a lot of gas and flash to come out at night when you're shooting in the pitch black. You can really see this thing compared to a Surefire 3-prong flash hider. So all these little ports right here that aid in the compensation of the gun are allowing gas and fire to escape at night, diminishing the flash hiding ability. So if you come to the compensation aspect, compared to a Surefire Muzzle Break, it's not nearly as powerful at mitigating the felt recoil, just because you have these small holes instead of the big chambers on the muzzle brake that you saw earlier. So felt recoil is definitely reduced compared to just a flash hider, but it's still not the same as using a dedicated compensator. So, you know, it does two things okay. It's not putting out fireballs at night, and it's not just completely eliminating felt recoil where you're just, you know, shooting insane splits and the gun's not moving. So it does a few things okay, like I said, but it doesn't do either one of them very, very well. So when you buy this thing, you know you're not getting a 3-gun level compensator where this thing's just super flat shooting, and you know you're not getting a flash hider that emits hardly any signature at night. So, you know, it is what it is at this point. I would never purchase one again for me personally, just mainly because the suppression aspect of how it allows so much noise and gas out of the can. But when just used as a hybrid flash hider muzzle brake, it's not terrible. So it does have a slight redeeming quality there, but again, it's just not for me. So since I'm not going to be running the Warcomp anymore, what am I going to be changing my Warcomp out with? So I am going to swap it out for a Surefire muzzle brake like I have on this 14.5-inch pinned and welded BCM. So why am I going to run a muzzle brake on my 11.5-inch SBR? Well, for me personally, it boils down to the fact that I only own one Surefire suppressor. So I'm trying to make this thing last as long as possible. So when I shoot this thing and all the gases are coming out of a muzzle brake, all the gases are entering this suppressor, and most of them are being pushed to the sides due to the muzzle brake and its natural tendency with those ports to push all that gas out instead of forward like with a flash hider. So in all reality, that is prolonging the life of my can by, instead of all those gases being pushed forward and slowly over time eroding the baffles, most of that gas is coming out and hitting the sidewalls of this can, which is a much denser, tougher material than the baffles themselves. So, you know, baffle erosion, Surefire suppressors, they're super, super tough and they're known for their durability and quality. But still, everything I can do to help prolong the life of this can. I plan on getting more cans, Surefire cans in the future, but I've got other stuff I want to buy before I buy another, you know, $1,200, $1,300 can. So I'm gonna do everything I can to prolong the life of this can. And the best way to do that is to use a muzzle brake. So you may be thinking, you know, you're using a muzzle brake on a rifle. What if the can goes down and you have to use this thing at night and you're just completely just putting out fireballs at night and everybody can see where you're at? And to that I'll say, you know, I'm just a civilian, so the odds of me having to use this gun in any official capacity are super, super, super low. Thank goodness, by the way. And if I have this suppressor attached and it goes down, the odds of that happening are even lower. So we're thinking like 1,000th of 1% or something like that. So the odds that I'll ever have to, you know, be using this rifle for self-defense or whatever, and the can goes down while I'm using it, are just super, super low. So I'm not worried about that aspect. You know, people in the military, police, you know, signature reduction without, like, if the can goes down, that's something for them to think about. For me, that's a non-factor. So that's why I'm running muzzle brakes on all of my builds going forward that I plan to suppress with a Surefire suppressor. And for me, that's just, I think that's what's gonna work best for me. But with everything, it's up to you guys what you need, what you think will work best. So do your own research, look at your situation, think what may work best for you, and go with that. So at the end of the day, these are all just my observations from using the Warcomp, using the muzzle brake, and I just make my own opinion. I would encourage you guys to test different gear, test different accessories, come up with your own opinions, use what works best for you guys, and just go from there. What I use may not be best for you, and vice versa. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you learned anything, drop a like. If you have any suggestions, takeaways, something I should try regarding any of these muzzle devices, leave a comment down below. Love reading you guys' comments, and if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys on the next video. But for now, it's doing me just fine. So what I really love about this gun is the trigger. We have a Geisley SSAE super semi-automatic enhanced trigger, and this thing is just excellent. So you have like it's a 2-stage trigger. You have like a 2-pound take up and then like a one